Joining us right now is Pollster Ed Goeas. He's a former senior advisor and Governor Walker's presidential campaign advisor, formerly part of Governor Romney's 2012 general election polling team as well. Ed, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good to see you, Maria.
So you had such involvement in Romney's presidential run. Do you have any insight on his willingness to serve as Trump's Secretary of State?
Well, I think you have, as you normally see with someone stepping up to the presidency, you see the best come out of them. They take the weight of that responsibility, and time after time after time, I've seen that happen. I think we're seeing that with Donald Trump. You also see that with those that have been in public service for a long period of time. You don't say no to being called to step up, and I think, quite frankly, it's been good, very good for the president-elect in terms of him broadly looking at a large number of people, including Governor Romney.
Yeah, it's interesting, the meetings that he's having. How would you characterize the transition so far? Do you agree with what we just heard, that it's been sort of record time, he's doing this quickly? And how about Rex Tillerson from ExxonMobil? Does that surprise you?
Well, I think that the general public out there, the reaction is extremely positive in terms of Trump. In fact, if you look at the information flow from the campaign, it's about a 10-point net positive for the president-elect and for his team. Do they know the specifics of the pace and where it is? I don't think necessarily, but you do get a sense that they are showing up ready to hit it from day one, and I think they've been very positive on many of the names they're looking at. They're not looking like they're looking narrowly. They're looking like they're looking very broadly, and that helps not only with the Republican base and the Trump base, but helps with the overall base nationwide.
But in terms of Ed, it's Dagan McDowell, the base of Trump's ideology. Jerry Seib actually writes about this in the Wall Street Journal today. What are we getting in terms of a president? Is he going to be a populist who battles corporate America, who kind of throws water in the face of people who believe in free markets, or is he going to embrace corporate America? The very fact that he's interviewing Rex Tillerson for maybe the biggest job in his cabinet says that, well, that's not populist.
Well, I think everyone's putting their own term on populist. The bottom line is the reaction of the middle class in this country is where you're getting the best response for Donald Trump. That is really not only part of his base, but where he needs to expand the base. It's 70% of the electorate, and getting a very, very positive response on that. I think talking about the specific people on are they populist, are they not populist, is it big business or it's not big business, I think what I'm seeing in the data is a real focus and a demand of the American public is they want to see problems solved, and they don't care what label you put on it as long as they see progress occurring. And I think that's what they feel they are saying in terms of the direction and the emphasis of the Trump-elect transition.
Ed, Amy Holmes following up here on Dagan's question. Maybe the label for it, looking over here, maybe the label for it is protectionist, that we see Donald Trump, doing the deal with Carrier in Indiana, putting America first, trying to disentangle us from some of our Mid-East relationships. I've spoken with one of Donald Trump's close foreign policy advisors who actually really likes Dana Rohrabacher for Secretary of State, who, as you know, opposed the invasion of Iraq. Do you think that that might be sort of the through line that we're seeing in some of Donald Trump's early choices?
No, again, I think you're trying to be too specific as opposed to the way the public sees it generally. They're not going to be that specific. They're not going to be down to those names. What they're going to see is the general message that is coming out. And I think you'll see that in terms of the policy. The poll that we're releasing today, the Battleground poll, shows very specifically very strong support for tax cuts, for dealing with trade and making sure it's not only fair trade, free trade, but fair trade, looking at the healthcare system and bringing down healthcare costs, and the infrastructure. And those are kind of the four big things that are coming out, what the public is hearing, and overwhelmingly the middle class is supporting that.
Let's talk a little more about your polling, Ed. How are Americans feeling now, nearly a month after Election Day?
Well, and that's the important thing. It's how they feel today. It's not testing what happened in the election. His favorables are up by 10 points. His unfavorables are down by 10. He's at the lowest level of unfavorable, below 50%, that we've seen in the last year and a half. So from that standpoint, it's positive. I think more importantly, you're seeing nearly half of Americans saying they are hopeful or they're excited about the new Trump presidency, and that at least takes some of the heat off for a moment of this kind of partisan bickering, and I think that is going to be the key. The more that it appears that is for the broader electorate, that's where you get the populist theme coming in, and specifically with the middle class.
Does he have a chance to have a conventional kind of honeymoon period after this election, after the very divisive election, or is this going to look different than what we have typically gotten for honeymoon periods for presidencies?
Well, I mean, certainly leading up to the election and with basically the movement that put him over the top all occurring in the last week, I kind of question whether he would have that honeymoon. But looking at the data now, he seems to be moving in that direction, that he is going to get a pause of all the angst back and forth that was occurring during the campaign. And certainly there's an opportunity there to take that and turn it into a more traditional positive honeymoon season or period. And I think if you look at where his negatives have come down, his positives have gone up, there's certainly opportunity for that. The surprising thing in the polling is that Hillary Clinton's numbers haven't moved an inch since the election. She's still at a 55% unfavorable rating. We need to stay away from that. Trump needs to stay away from that and really focus on speaking to the American public. I know there's been some concern on his part from tweets that have occurred the last couple of days about treatment of the news media.
Right.
The fact of the matter is what I'm seeing in the polling is his message is getting through, and getting through in a very positive way.
That's really interesting now at this point to see that really resonating, his way of doing things. Ed, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Good to see you.
We'll see you soon. Ed Goeas there.
Thanks.